If you have an interest in building a bootstrap SaaS product and turning that into a successful business, I want to share with you what I feel like are my most effective ways for finding that all important problem worth solving before you move forward with trying to turn that SaaS product into a business. For background, I've been building SaaS products for over 10 years now. I've had my successes and I've had my failures. And the reason why I feel like this process is that critical and why I never skip it is because every time I have and I've tried to jump ahead and build or scale a SaaS product that didn't go through this process, it ultimately failed. The ones that have succeeded, I invested the time when I needed to properly identify what I refer to as a problem we're solving before moving forward to scale. What matters most here is you need to find qualitative data that's basically one-on-one feedback from people in your target market who have a painful enough problem and are motivated enough to put their money where their mouth is when it comes to ultimately solving that problem. First and most important foundational element at this step in the process is you need to focus on qualitative data. You need to get raw feedback, context, and the nuance from specific people in your target market, and those conversations need to be largely open-ended. Basically, you just need to see the raw data so that you can uncover the nuance, which is critically important at this point in the process because what you're looking for is the problems, how significant those problems are, so the priority of those for folks in your target market, because they're not all considered equal, and the significance of it. How intense is the pain? How expensive is the problem? You need all these details. In order to get that, you need to largely focus on qualitative data. Don't skip ahead yet. Critical mistake people make as part of this process trying to find problems we're solving is they try to jump ahead, skip the qualitative data phase. They maybe don't want to have one-on-one conversations with people, or they feel like they can't for whatever reason, and they want to jump ahead and do something like a survey because it feels faster. They feel like via async, maybe it'll be a little less uncomfortable. I feel like they can probably get more data if they send it to large enough people, and they feel like that data will come in and it'll be relatively structured and to help them more easily identify where they should go from here. Classic mistake. One of the biggest problems with this is you actually need to know quite a bit about the problem context in your target market to even be able to create a survey that can provide you with enough data. But that is by far a distant second option, and it's sequential in nature, which means you have to get the qualitative data first. If you don't have that, you can't even, in my opinion, put together realistically a good survey that's going to tell you much. One perfect example of that is when most people are taking surveys and filling them out, what they're expecting is you to provide them with a list of options. So you ask a question and then they're going to answer it in that way. But what if you don't have the answer to the question that matches what they were going to report in your list? And how could you possibly know? Because they could say anything. Surveys really aren't good for that, and you're going to miss out on that nuance. If you miss that nuance at this part in the process, that's likely to kind of send you off in the wrong direction, and you don't want to make that mistake early in the game here because if you start heading in the wrong direction early in the game, it's almost like a flight taking off from Washington, D.C. that wants to head to the West Coast, say Silicon Valley or San Francisco area. If you're off only by a degree or two, you can wind up in San Diego, right? Because that is a big difference very early on in the game. So you need to capture that nuance and you got to do so by qualitative data. So if you're thinking about using surveys early on in the process when you don't know enough about your target market and that context, definitely don't do that yet. Focus on the qualitative data first. Close second favorite of mine. If for whatever reason you are kind of unable to or feel like you can't get that qualitative data via interviews with folks in your target market, or maybe they're a little bit difficult to reach, there are other options here that don't fall into that survey category. What I mean, or at least what we used to refer to them are, it's kind of like forums. They're places where people go, they talk about their problems, and they interact with other people who likely have some of those same problems. One of my favorites here is Reddit. Now, there's basically a subreddit for almost everything these days. So, whatever it is you're thinking of doing or who it is you want to help, chances are there's a subreddit that might match and it might match really well. So, go there, read everything you possibly can, as many posts as possible, and then start to process that data, start to process that information. Look for what they're complaining about the most and any of the additional context as well too. And then you can even engage with them as well if you have follow-up questions about all those other things that I mentioned, right? How commonplace is this? How painful is it? How expensive is it, right? The more you layer on that context, the more it makes that problem we're solving look like a greater opportunity for you to build a SaaS solution around. And bonus points here as well too, you can leverage AI now significantly in these ways. I've done that quite a bit where you can kind of pipe subreddits into AI tools and you can ask questions of them. AI is going to be able to access at least some of that data and information. So I can help you produce a helpful report here relatively quickly and easily that says, here's the problems people are talking about, here's what's coming up most frequently, and then you can kind of move forward from there. So leverage AI for this process as well too. And I would recommend you do this in addition to the interviews. But if you're having trouble getting those interviews or some of that qualitative data, definitely start here first and skip the survey idea. Focus on the qualitative data first. So to apply these strategies, just make sure that when you're starting out and you're looking for potential problems worth solving, that you're focusing more on that qualitative data or interviews or whatever with your target market so that you can get that raw, like unfiltered context that goes into the various nuances. And then ultimately, your job is going to be to sort through all of that and then try to find the patterns, right? What are, I call them problem patterns. Who has what problems? How frequently are they coming up? And then go deeper and deeper until you feel like you have enough context to better understand where it is in the list and how significant that is. Because more that those metrics kind of stack up in your favor, the more your opportunity is going to be in order to build a SaaS solution around that and then have a bunch of people basically waiting for a solution to it in the form of the SaaS product you want to build in a bootstrapped way. And then, as I mentioned as well, also leverage platforms like Reddit because there's a ton that basically might match pretty well with your target market. And as such, you can scour those and get so much great ideas and context in an area of a target market that you may not have previously been all that familiar with. It can kind of help you come up to speed with getting inside their head, which is more important than ever because we have a tendency to just think through, wouldn't this be a great solution for insert target market here, lawyers or accountants or whatever. If you're not a lawyer or you're not an accountant, there's just so much nuance you're going to be missing because the path that they've traveled is different than yours. So you need to gather that context. I've given you a couple of ways to do it. So focus there on that qualitative data. Skip or wait to do surveys until you have additional and significant amount of qualitative data because that'll help you create better surveys. And then you can layer on additional helpful context, maybe at a greater level of scale if you want to later on, but definitely don't start there. And if you have any questions about how to do this or you feel like you need help, I offer private coaching for folks looking to build SaaS products in a bootstrapped way, with or without AI. A lot of the stuff today, I'm using AI significantly, and that's helping tremendously. So I can help you with that as well too. But if you're stuck somewhere or you want more help with learning how to do this, I've done it a ton, and I'm sure I can help you. Learn more at bootstrappersparadise.com about how I might be able to help.